Good evening, and we are back with the Rainbow Default Files. Now tonight, we have an exciting one. It is a record. It's a very exciting record. It's a very rare record, and by rare, I don't actually know how many they made. May not actually be that rare, but it is weird and obscure and very Australian. So let's get into it. Basically, what we have here is a record advertising and celebrating the Qantas 747B, the jumbo jet, the big jumbo jet from the early 1970s. Qantas wanted to show off something very new, and it wasn't just the jet. They wanted to show off the in-flight entertainment system. We take it for granted now. We have video screens on every seat back in the big planes. You can watch whatever you want. You can listen to whatever you want. Wasn't the way back in the 1970s. In fact, just having anything to listen to at all was really new. To celebrate that, to advertise that, to let people take something home with them after their very special journey on the big plane, Qantas made this record. I actually picked up this special treat many years ago, and it sat in my vinyl collection, and like so many vinyl collectors, I was just buying them because I was a pretentious hipster. I never actually listened to them. I've changed that. I've set up my record player. I did listen to this record. It was pretty special. Now, it's entitled There's Music in the Air because the whole concept, again, of in-flight entertainment was new. The idea that there was music in the plane, that was new. I don't know what people were doing before that, probably just reading books, eating foods, but music was a big upgrade. So we have this lovely vinyl, and look at the centerfold. Isn't that just brilliant? Qantas celebrating the plane and telling us also what's on the record. And you can see there's a few interesting characters here. You've got the little kid, you've got the old people, because old people deserve music too. But most of all, you've got this middle-aged gentleman. You know, he was probably 29 years old back in 1971. It's just how people used to look. But there's one more interesting note. So we got a few photos on the back here, a few interesting bits and pieces. People using their headsets, people sitting in the first class lounge, all wonderful. But there's a tiny little note all the way down here. IATA regulations require a US $2.50 charge for the use of headsets. Due to the short duration of the Trans-Tasman flight, Australia and New Zealand, movies are not shown. The second half, yeah, it's a short flight, whatever, you're not going to put a movie on. Why did IATA demand people pay for headsets? That's the international airplane tickety-boo people. Why did they care? We'll get an answer for you by the end of this. Don't you worry. As it turns out, my suspicions were correct. Basically, the IATA was a bit of a cartel. The airlines would say, oh, due to international regulations, we have to do X, Y, and Z. But really, it was an excuse for all of them to basically say, oh, it's not our fault, IATA says, but then they could do stuff to make more money. The headset charge was basically part of that. IATA says we gotta charge you $2.50. We'd love to give you the headset, but IATA says. But really, the airlines were pretty much in on it. This book, Empire of the Sky, great book, basically tells us the whole story. More than just this, there's so many gems in there. But that was the trick. Basically, yeah, IATA said they had to pay $2.50. They had to pay $2.50. But the airlines were in on it. It meant that they didn't have to worry about their competitors undercutting them, giving away free in-flight entertainment. It's like, no, we're all charging you for it. There you go. Let's talk about the track listing. Now, it's not exactly what you would call contemporary today. Half of this stuff, I don't even know what it is. I'm just going to scroll these by so you can take a look at your own pleasure. But there is some fun stuff here. There's two I want to highlight. Track 3 on side 1, Hawaii 5-0. It's the theme from Hawaii 5-0. Never watched it. I was more of a Magnum PI kind of man. But it's catchy. It's an instrumental, but I was bopping my head downstairs with this on the old turntable. There's also Aquarius from Hair. I think is that Age of Aquarius? I don't know. I put this record on. I didn't know. I wasn't headbanging at any point, so I don't think Age of Aquarius came up, so I'm a little bit suspicious on that one. But side 2 kicks off with a personal favorite, and I can't be that much of a favorite. Do You Know the Way to San Jose? Instrumental version. I believe the vast majority of these were covers, if not all of them were covers. Qantas had this produced themselves. But just even instrumentally, that song is beautifully catchy.
A shopping montage.
Yeah, running around with lots of bags. And the whole thing wraps up on the gold and silver waltz, which just has a big brassy finish to round out the album. It's good fun, and here's the thing. I would have thought this would have been jazz standards or some crap, and I wouldn't have been able to stand listening to it. I put this on in the house. It was surprisingly listenable, just for getting around doing things. I had a cup of tea, a little teapot. We bought a teapot to have tea with this. It was a really nice afternoon. But regardless, here's the thing. So Qantas says you can have music wherever you go. On the mighty Qantas 747B, you have a choice of 7 channels of sound. Now, I've researched this on airliners and trains. Now, I've usually looked at it from the perspective of electronic headsets, standard electric headphones that became popular after the Walkman came out in the late 70s. But this is earlier. This is early 70s. And the headphones that Qantas was using are the pneumatic type, where they literally had a speaker or an audio output in the aircraft, in the seat. And your headset that you plugged in was just 2 pneumatic tubes, much like a stethoscope. And so that was carrying the sound to your ears. Now they say you have 7 channels of sound. What I want to know is, how were they doing that? Were they running 7 wires to each seat and there was some kind of selector on your seat? Or were they running some kind of radio signal with a single conductor to each seat? So then you had to have tuning equipment in every single seat so you could pick from the 7 channels. I don't know. I'm leaning towards probably they had 7 conductors and just a 7-way rotary switch that let you pick all the different channels. I'm going to try and find out. I've been searching all day. I still don't know. If you do, drop it down in the comments. Okay, so it turns out I was wrong. The airlines did not run 7 channels over 7 individual wires to each seat. Would have been too heavy. Instead, what they did was they used a technique called time division multiplexing. All the audio was turned into digital signals. Now, a single transmission wire then went to each seat, and that could carry more digital data than just a single channel. It could carry 7, 10, 20, 30, however many. So they ran a single wire to each seat that actually carried multiple channels within it using time division multiplexing. What this basically meant is they were sending several seconds of audio in this tiny little compressed digital signal that only took a fraction of a second to send. Then the next split second, they're sending the other channel, and then the next split second, the other channel. My numbers here aren't perfect, but you get the idea. They're sending these longer chunks of audio in digital format in this time-compressed manner so that 7 channels can share a single transmission line. And then at each individual seat in the aircraft, you had a demultiplexer that could pull out the channel you wanted from the 7 or however many were on the line. Quite complicated, took some expensive electronics. Not going to say it was cutting edge in the 1970s, but doing this for 200, 300 seats was not cheap, but it was cutting edge. It helped get people on the planes. It was a point of difference. It was pretty special way back when. Anyway, moving on. We're told that on this record, there is a small selection from the vast variety available on the aircraft. So you could actually hear some of these songs if you caught the 747B, or if you caught the 747B and then bought the record, not sure where they actually sold it, probably at the airport. You could listen to the same tracks when you got home. They say it's music to relax by, to tap your feet by. I did that today. Music to match your mood and to serve as a lasting memory of your flight on the Qantas 747B. So take to the clouds and distant places. Switch on your record player and switch off the everyday humdrum of the world. Take off with the sounds of 747B and Qantas. As I said, it was actually quite a pleasant record to have on playing in the house. It's not modern, but it's good doing things music. It fills the room with a sense of joie de vivre, but at the same time doesn't distract, doesn't overpower unless you turn it up too loud. Honestly, this is probably, short of my extensive collection of Thermals records, this is probably one of the coolest pieces in my collection. Currently retailing around $50 on eBay. I got mine for $10. Not in pristine condition in the slightest, but a really interesting piece of Australian transport history. I just want to cut here. I just found out something astounding. This whole record, it's a scam. Qantas, I mean, look, you might have heard these songs on the 747B. You might not have. I don't have the tapes they had on the aircraft or whatever it was. What I can tell you is this record was not actually made for Qantas. You could get exactly the same track listing as a sampler for when you visited EMI Records. Basically, it was something they gave away on tours. They must have used the same master record to print these because it's like, why bother recording more stuff, getting more tracks, making a special record? Let's just stamp the same samplers, put a different label on them and put them in a Qantas sleeve. Just an absolute joke. So I've just spent 15 minutes telling you why this is amazing. It's not. It's a EMI sample record that has been sloppily rebranded as a special plain thing. I could not be more offended. Anyway, back to the video. There is another version of this, a later one, a few years later, called Quantastic. That's really for the dilettantes. Most of the real fans, they want the original. Ansett Australia, if they've ever done this, I really want a copy. I don't think they ever did. Regardless, the Qantas 747B, the record, there's music in the air. Just an absolute gem, and I'm going to make my friends listen to this at my next weekend potluck. Till next time, TK out. So let's talk about the background. I'm just going to read this out to you from Qantas' own copywriters. A mood, relaxation, the tinkle of ice cubes on glass, the tinkle of music in stereo and first release movies. Freedom to move about, for a quiet chat with friends, the sound of laughter and service. Smooth trolleys glide down wide aisles, a smile, a fluffed pillow, and answers to questions. Cuisine, the finest in the world. Dishes from all countries, hot and cold snacks, drinks served quietly, properly, and at your side, of course. Books, relaxing games, magazines, stationery, so many things to do, so many things done for you. The Captain Cook Lounge, the biggest first-class lounge in the skies, cozy groupings, privacy, and a la carte service. Sweeping vistas, clouds, and azure skies. Seascapes, landscapes, sunrise and stars. And all the while you're floating above it all, quietly, smoothly, on the Qantas 747B. Still going, the muted hum of her mighty jet engines fading into big, soft, comfortable seats, and sleep. Still going, from takeoff to touchdown, throughout the world, you know you're with Qantas, with the Qantas 747B. Not finished. Music lovers, gourmets, movie watchers, readers, writers, talkers, dreamers, sleepers, pampered people all, welcome to the Qantas 747B. You could have cut several paragraphs off of that. You really could have.